This episode of Made in America is brought to you by America's Inventor Lady and Home Talk USA. Home Talk is a proud member of the King's Broadcasting Network, which has been bringing you the best in home-based innovation since 1998.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America.
This segment is brought to you by the law offices of R.P. Baraska. RPB law offices have been bringing corporate-level legal expertise to the independent inventor community for more than 20 years. For all your inventing legal needs, trust rpblawoffices.com.
Everyone, and thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Made in America. And a big shout out to Michael King and King's Production for making all of this happen. We are very grateful. And for also, the gentleman who's pushing the buttons, Matt Cahan is out there. So my guest for this episode of Made in America is Greg Getsinger. So Greg, thank you so much for being with us. Greg Getsinger invented the portion paddle. Very cool product. And Greg, thanks for being with us. And tell everybody, what is the portion paddle?
Thank you for having me on. The portion paddle is a pizza cutting board that's designed to cut pizzas into equal slices. It's very simple to use, very easy to clean. And that's it. It's simple.
I like simple to understand. It's everybody. It's like, all right, we have all gotten pizzas. It's like, who was cutting this one? They got it a little off, and piece of slices that are the right size are much easier to eat than the ones that are, double what they should be. And the cheese falls all over the place, right?
Right.
All right. So how did you come up with it? Tell us the story, Greg.
Well, I retired from the insurance industry. I had reached the corporate ceiling as high as I could get. I was the vice president, and I was an insurance agent and vice president of the department that I was in. And I wanted more. I was selling insurance, and my boss was making all the money. And granted, I was on commission. I was making money enough to feel comfortable, but it just wasn't enough. So I decided to look at buying an insurance agency, but they were way overpriced. And there was a pizza shop in our neighborhood about a mile away from my house. It was new, about a year old, and we'd been buying their pizzas. It tasted great, good pizzas. And I told my wife I'd be interested in buying that business. It was affordable, that we could buy it. And so I retired from the insurance industry. And one of my first initiatives when I bought the pizza business was I wanted to get the pizzas in the hands of the kids. My thought was it's probably the children that tell the parents where to buy their pizza. And I can't imagine any parent saying no to a child when they're asking for pizza and where to get it. So my thought was to get it into the school systems within my delivery area. And so I approached one of the first schools that I approached. I wanted to develop school lunch programs. So that way they served my pizza once a week in their cafeterias to the children. And so I approached the first school system, and they loved the idea. I took a pizza, half cheese, half pepperoni pizza, and we had lunch while I discussed the plan as far as how we'd make the pizza and their costs. They liked the idea. The nutritionists gave me the go-ahead, and they were buying 55 pizzas every Friday. That's a nice order. And everything seemed to be going well until a month in. And month in, the head nutritionist called up. She said she had a problem with our pizzas. And I was kind of panicking because this was a main concept of mine that I had really planned on. And so she told me that I thought, when she said she had a problem with our pizzas, I thought maybe we're delivering them late, or maybe they're getting there cold. And she said, but she didn't say that. She said, you're not cutting the pizzas into equal slices. And the kids are only buying the bigger slices and pushing away the smaller ones. Now, I mean, these are young kids and children, and they're catching on to the economics of paying for money for a product. And if it's bigger than smaller ones, they're going to take the bigger ones. She told me to fix the problem or lose the account because they couldn't sell the smaller slices. And so I was panicking, and I Googled, portioning tools for pizza, and there were only 3 out there. I bought them. Our staff tried them, and they worked, but they weren't very efficient. One thing I learned is right away when I bought the business is employees, and if it's not simple to use and easy to clean, they're not going to use it. They may use it while the boss is there or the manager is there, but as soon as they turn their back, they're not going to use those products. And they didn't like all 3 of those products. So we still used them until I could find a solution. And it didn't take long, but about 4 o'clock in the morning, I thought I had an idea. And I thought it has to be a cutting board, and the cutting board has to have grooves in it. So a knife can cut through the nice and cleanly and straight. And then it has to have centering circles on the surface so it could center the pizza, kind of like coloring within the line. You put the pizza in between the centering circle, and it's perfectly centered. So I drew. I'm not a very good drawer. I can't draw at all. And I drew this ugly drawing at 4 o'clock in the morning. I took it to my pizza shop, showed my general manager. I said, I have. And my general manager looked at it, and he scratched his head, and he's looking at it going, Greg, I don't get it. And I thought, oh my gosh. I said, okay, I know what needs to be done. So a friend of mine, brother-in-law's dad was a wood hobbyist, and I asked him asked him to come to the pizza shop, and he made. I showed him the drawing, and he made. He knew what I was talking about, so he made a crude prototype for me to see if it would work. And we worked through the process. I paid him off in pizzas. I found bartering was a good way to reduce my costs, and so. He loved our pizza, so he was more than happy to take a couple of pizzas home with him, and we tried it out, and the grooves just didn't work right. The centering circle was fine, so it took me several iterations, different prototypes to get to a decent cutting board that we could use for the school systems. And it saved the account. And from there, I was able to get all the schools by guaranteeing that I could cut pizzas into equal slices. Now, it was at that point when I was hiring employees. They'd come in and they'd say, "I wish we had something like that at our pizza shop." And that started making me think that maybe there is a need for this other than just my own pizza shop. And so I started researching and found out that this cutting board was going to be an ideal product for the pizza industry.
That's wonderful. And it's amazing. You think about kids and the parents saying, okay, this is the pizza you want, because kids, it's like, I don't like this one, and I've got 4 grandsons, they're all the same way. It's like, this isn't a very good pizza, or the slices don't work just right, and his is bigger than mine, oh my. And I can see the kids standing in line thinking, I need 2 pizzas, or I need that big one. And they don't want to pay for two when they can get a big one for the same price. So yes, it's
Right.
funny the way that, that the kids think. And, the fact that you've got, generations of prototypes is not unusual either, because there are so many inventors. It's like, how many prototypes did it take? And the wife goes, he's got a museum full of them. So, yeah, we get it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's always a
Absolutely.
lot of fun to watch the evolution of your idea and how you get from, okay, that 4 o'clock in the morning bizarre, moment of, oh, I got the idea, and the wow moment, we call it, to actually having product that you can use and test. So we want to know more about your story when we come back, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that, because, we look at Made in America as inventing, 2.0, where, we need it, we make it, and we want to make it right here in our own backyard. So we're going to talk more about where you ended up having those portion paddles manufactured. So stick with us, everybody. We are going to go and pay some bills, and a big thanks to King Broadcasting Network for making sure that this happens every week, coast to coast. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
This segment is brought to you by SearchQuest Patent Search. SearchQuest provides for a comprehensive patent search that searches the entire world and not just the U.S. Patent Office. Make sure that before you spend those big bucks having a patent written, you've done your due diligence by getting a comprehensive patent search. Use SearchQuestPatents.com for all your patent search needs. They scour the world for you.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America. All right, because you know what? This is Inventing 2.0. We need it, we make it right here in the good old US of A. And this segment is brought to you by TrueView. It is the only accurate 3D real-time image blind spot mirror reflector. And it means that when that semi is coming up right next to you, you are going to know exactly where it is and where it's coming from. So cargocatch.com is where you want to go and get your TrueView mirror. And my guest for this hour of Made in America is Greg Getsinger. And Greg has got the portion paddle, and he manufactures right here in the good US of A. So we want to, Greg, where do you make them?
They're made, the material is made in Tacoma, in the state of Washington. And then the portion paddles are made an hour and 15 minutes away from my office in Holmes County, Ohio. And so I am very proud that I'm able to make it in the U.S. I'm even prouder to know that they're made in Ohio, where I grew up in. So that's where the portion paddles are made, is in Holmes County, Ohio.
And how'd you find them? How'd you find the place in Washington that was going to do the wood?
That's a good question. And actually, it's a composition material of paper, sheets of 4x8 sheets of paper soaked in resin. And then it goes through a heating process to come up with this phenolic, a very durable material. And it was research. Throughout the whole invention process, research has been my best friend. Research tells me what avenues to go. It'll tell me where to stop and where to look somewhere else. And I tried plastic, and plastic wasn't durable enough. And then I landed on these phenolics, these durable, hard products. And I also had to make sure that the material met some FDA and NSF, now it's called National Sanitation Foundation. It had to meet those guidelines or requirements to be in the kitchen of a commercial restaurant, like a pizza shop. And I looked overseas, but I really wanted it in the USA. And I eventually landed on this material. It's called Rich Light, and it's in Tacoma, Washington. And they do a great job. And but they helped me in my manufacturer in Holmes County. He understood what I was doing. He told me that he gets a lot of people with inventions or ideas all the time, and he said he turns a lot of them down because they're not he just can't see the vision, but he could see mine. And so he was willing to work with me, and he has worked with me through the whole process. And because of his help, I've been able to accommodate, and I actually make them, they're custom made, which is because pizzas come in all different sizes and they come in all different slices, like an 8 cut or a 6 cut. So I have the most unique product out on the market for the restaurant industry, for the pizza shops. And not only pizza shops, my customers include the convenience stores. They sell pizza by the slice. Schools, their customers mine because pizzas are cut into slices for the kids. Same with not just franchises, but just anywhere where pizza by the slice is sold is where the industry took me to, not just with pizzerias and franchises. So
Well,
that's how I developed it.
yeah, it would make sense that any place where you've got to have a specific size and all your sizes have to be consistent. Because when people go in and they go, well, I don't want that one, that's the little one, I want the bigger one. And it really doesn't matter what it is. They want the buyers, the consumers they want the slices to all be the same. Pie, cake, peanut
Yes.
butter sandwich. They want the halves to be the same or the slices to be the same. So it makes perfect sense that when you go and you've got, 6 pizzas sitting out there, people are going to look and make sure the sizes of the slices are the same.
Yeah, I was just telling someone today that the idea of a place selling pizza by slice when you go to a convenience store is you get to select which slice you want. And so the convenience store has to have them cut into equal slices, because eventually, and it only takes 2 slices out of a pizza that can't be used to lose all the profits on that pizza. So it's very important for the return on investment to be able to sell every slice. And just 2 slices from a pizza will ruin the rest of the pizza as far as for profit wise. So the custom making it was part of my research. I would stop from Holmes County in my place, in between Akron and Cleveland where I live. I would stop at pizza shops, get menus, ask about what size pizzas they make, how many slices. And my research told me that I had to custom make it. And I'm glad I did. So,
Well, it's terrible when your research has got to be going out and eating pizzas all over the place.
it's a tough job.
I know, but somebody's got to do it,
That's right.
I'm going to come and work for you and do some research because I love pizza. And so, I've been to the website, looked at it. You have a variety of sizes, and your main customers then are the commercial resellers of pizza, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It felt comfortable for me since I was already in the pizza business. So it felt comfortable to do commercials versus retail.
Do you still make pizzas or do you just sell boards?
My wife and I every once in a while will make a pizza, but I had my share of years making pizzas, so I keep my sharpness on my products, making sure I can expand the products and make sure I can make it perfect for my customers.
Well, you kind of grew up, when you retired from insurance, then you went into, buying a pizzeria, into then selling products to pizza places all over the country.
Yes, and the world. They sell all over the world, so I'm very fortunate about that. Yes, I get to talk to a lot of pizzerias and the independent pizzerias, and I enjoy it because we're talking shop. I don't make pizzas in a shop anymore, but I certainly love to. I'd certainly love to talk with my fellow pizza makers.
Absolutely. It's got to make a big difference that, you've been there, done that, and broaden just from people stopping in for dinner. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of your challenges and the things that you overcame during all of this. As soon as we come back. Right now, we are going to go and pay some bills, and a big shout out to Michael King, and he will be back with you next week. So stick with us. We'll be back for more of Made in America.
If you're an inventor or you know an inventor out there who would just like to be able to have a conversation with other inventors, join the Inventors Roundtable. It's free. The meetings are virtual, so you can be anywhere in America and talk to another inventor. And for a lot of folks out there, understanding the process, being able to ask questions, getting good service provider information is critical to the inventing process. So, got questions? Want to join? It's free. inventorsroundtable.org.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America, Inventing 2.0. We need it. We make it right here in the good old US of A. And my guest for this session of Made in America is Greg Getsinger. He has made a portion paddle, which allows you, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, to make sure that when you're out there buying pieces of pizza, that they are all the same size. Or when you get home with one that's been cut, oh yeah, all the pieces are the same size so the kids don't fight. And so, Greg, I am sure that you just got lots of smiles when people would say, oh my God, all the pieces are the same size, right?
I do. I actually do. Yes.
So that's kind of like when you go out and, you've written a book and you see somebody, has bought your book and you didn't even know them and they weren't your mother, that you can actually now, when people are saying, oh, you've made life so much easier, all the slices are the same size. Good for you. So during all of this, how long have you been, working on this product? You said you were retiring from the insurance industry. So, give us a time frame.
Well, it went very fast for me, the invention process. It took me, I commercialized it within a year, within 6 months of coming up with the idea. The prototypes were probably the biggest challenge. But being a salesperson in the insurance industry for so long, sales and marketing came easy to me. So that process I zipped right through, and I felt comfortable making cold calls. Back in the days when I first started, we used to call out of a phone book and just call people from a phone book, and so that sharpened my cold calling skills. So it wasn't too difficult for me to call up buyers in the pizza industry or the convenience store industry at schools, and so that was pretty easy for me to do. That was my simplest thing to do.
So what's been your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge was probably even though it's a simple product and there isn't any moving parts, I still had to go through at least 5 or 6 prototypes until I got the perfect portion paddle. It was a challenge just because the grooves had to be the right kind of grooves, and that's one of my patents. That's one of the features that's patented. It's the kind of groove that I have, and it had to fit 2 different kinds of knives. A roller knife, which a lot of people have seen, it's just a round cutting wheel with a handle, and a rocker knife, which is a half moon knife. It's a really half moon knife, and it's very long, and I had to make sure that the grooves fit for both of those, and that was the challenge. But once I got that challenge out of the way, then I had to find the material. And once I found the material, then I had to find a manufacturer. And once I found a manufacturer, I had to figure out the pricing to make sure everything matched so I could make money off of each portion paddle. And I had to make sure the price point was acceptable with the restaurant industry. So there were a lot of challenges within just doing that one thing and then finding it in the USA. Yet I was lucky enough to find it very close to home. But that was my biggest challenge was the prototyping. It was a very simple product, but it's something that you have to go through.
Yeah, it is. It's a simple product, but it's not a simple product. Why couldn't you use just wood?
Right. Well, wood wouldn't, in the restaurant industry, it has to be something that doesn't collect bacteria, and wood would collect bacteria, so and wood's probably not acceptable because the splintering could happen from the cutting boards. It's not easy to wash. It's difficult to wash, so wood wouldn't be the most acceptable material for the restaurant industry. But you're right.
Yeah,
Then I have to find something else.
exactly. And so, but it looks like wood. I've seen the pictures on the
Yes.
website. You wouldn't know if you didn't know. And, so your average consumer is like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then, the restaurant owners are saying, no, this has got all that we need to make it safe.
Yes. Yeah. And I've been challenged by some health inspectors, and I have paperwork to prove that it's approved by the National Sanitation Foundation, NSF, and then they're just fine with it. But yeah, you're right. It was a challenge. It was definitely a challenge.
Did you know when were going into it and thinking, oh, I think I'll invent, something where you can cut all the portions equally, what you were going to have to deal with?
No, I didn't know what know what I was going to have to deal with, and it was that's what made it really fun though is finding out on my own by trial and error. It's all about trial and error, and that's what I had to go through is the trial and error part to come up with it. So no, I didn't. I had no idea.
So what's been the biggest disappointment?
Um, Probably the biggest disappointment is it's with any salesperson. Any kind of a sale you try to make is when someone says no. And but I look at it at a sometimes I think often in the insurance industry, the rejection was often. So, but with a new product, it's hard to hear someone say no. But I don't let that no get me down because that opportunity can come around at a different time. I may have approached someone at the wrong time. It's just not right timing. And so I will, I won't be obnoxious about it. I'll still be persistent and follow up with a phone call or an email to see how things are going. And then sooner or later, they come back to me. And it happens quite often where years later, they'll come back to me and end up buying from me. But it's always hard to hear no. It's just something that you have to be thick-skinned about, and then always look at the positive. How can I create that from a no to an opportunity? And that's what I try to do with every no is try to create it into an opportunity.
Well, you can't sell them all by yourself, or can you? Are you a magic man too?
No, but I have distributors that sell the portion paddle and some manufacturer representatives and online and actually I have the commercial portion paddles on Amazon. So Amazon's a seller for me too. And but they can always call me direct. I'm just a phone call away if someone wants to call me to buy a portion paddle. But yes, there are many different avenues to do sales for.
So how long have they been on the market? How long have you been selling them?
Well, I have been selling the portion paddle for 16 years now, and when I first started, a really quick short story. When I first started, I'd buy one sheet of material, 4 feet by 8 feet sheet of material. I drive it to my manufacturer, drop it off. It lasts me a month. Then I do the same routine. I'd have to rent a U-Haul panel van to fit it in and drive it back and forth, and it lasts me about a month. And now I go through about 4 pallets a month of that material, and sometimes it's a lot more, sometimes a little less. But each year it just gets a little bit bigger and bigger as far as the material wise, and so that's been the fun part about it is watching this business grow. I've averaged almost every year like about 20%. Last year I grew by 37%, and so it's fun to watch the business grow. And I'm very lucky and very fortunate at the same time.
Well, when we come back, we want to talk a little bit more about what what you're looking towards in the future. All right, because our last segment, we might as well know, what are you looking for? No pie in the sky type of stuff, no pun intended. But we'll be back here, in a minute after we go and pay some bills. Hear a little bit more from Greg about what his goals are in the next few years and what he's shooting for. So stick with us, everybody. We will be back after we go pay some bills. And a big, big thank you to our fearless leader, Michael King, who is out making some wonderful food for the Cajun folks down in Louisiana.
True Up, easiest way to hang your pictures. We all know how stressful picture hanging can get. True Up comes with everything you need to level and hang pictures with no damage and no mess. Just peel, apply the adhesive to the back of the True Up mount and press firmly. Remove the remaining adhesive. Use the level and press and hold for 3 to 5 seconds to attach the True Up mount to your wall with a strong hold. The True Up frame adapter is compatible with most frames on the market. Apply the adhesive strip to the adapter, stick, and your frame hangs easily on the wall mount. This lets you adjust your picture side to side for perfect placement every time. The possibilities are limitless, and it's easy on your walls. Picture hanging can be truly a one-person job. True Up, the future of hanging is here.
And thank you so much for being with us for this segment of Made in America, because America loves to make things and our consumers love to buy made in America. So my guest is Greg Getsinger, and he's been telling us about his life with the perfect pizza board cutter. It is called the Portion Paddle, and it is at portionpaddle.com. Just in case you are a pizza owner, we've got friends who own a little pizza parlor right down the road from us, Greg. And, they make really good pizzas, but it's not always cut exactly even. And so, when you've gone through and you've got different types of boards now, why? Why isn't it just a round one with the pizza slices always looking right?
One of the best things about me being able to talk to other pizza makers in the country is they tell me what kind of pizzas they're making. And so since my portion paddle is custom made, I can custom make it to those kinds of pizzas. So there's a certain styles of pizza out there called a Detroit style pizza. It's a rectangle pizza. So I have cutting boards for making portion paddles for making square and rectangle pizzas. And then there are even round pizzas that are cut into squares. And that's a regional kind of a thing. In Ohio and in the Midwest, you see it quite often where round pizzas are cut into squares. And that's, some people call it a party style pizza, others call it a tavern style pizza. And I'm fortunate enough that since it's custom made, I can make it to their size pizza and the size of squares that they need for slices. I can do it all. And that's where the portion paddle really comes in handy, being custom made, is because that is included in the cost when they buy it, and it's made for their pizzas. Nobody else does that. And I'm just so proud of that. And it's all made in the United States. So that's why they're all the different kinds, is because my customers tell me what's out there to be made, and I make it for them.
It's wonderful. And if I said I was proud of you, you'd think that, oh yeah, I'm your mother. And I know, based on the fact that you retired and you've been in the pizza business 15 years, I'm probably not quite in that category. But certainly could be the big sister. So what's next? What are you looking for? Does this disappear when you retire again, or what?
Oh, that's a good question. The one regret I have is that I didn't invent this when I was younger. If I were 20 or 30 years ago, 20 or 30 years old, and I invented this product, I'd have this big company and really doing well. And I'm doing very well, and I have, like I said, the growth is great, but I'm at the retirement age, and so my goal is in the next year, probably about a year and a half, is to sell the business and retire. I spent a lot of time as a small business owner working on the business, and it's time to spend time with my wife, full time versus on my business. And so I'm looking forward to the next chapter. But one of the nicest thing about building a business like I have, and the base of business that I have, is that I know the next buyer, whoever buys it, will have a great opportunity because the foundation is set, the products are there, the pricing and the profits are great, and it'll be a great business for the next person or company to buy.
So when you say now, how did you get to be international salesman?
Um, Conventions. When I go to pizza conventions, there's a big one called International Pizza Expo, and people come worldwide to this convention, and I exhibit at the conventions, and that's where they'll come to my booth and they'll order a portion paddle. I have a good shipper that ships them at a pretty reasonable price for international costs, and so it's not unusual for me to ship portion paddles on a weekly basis to Canada, or overseas to just about anywhere. It is great to have customers worldwide.
I can only imagine. And, when they're able then to, based on different places, they might have different sizes that they're looking at. So they can say, okay, this is the size that we need the pieces to be, correct?
Yes, and they don't have that kind of, there isn't an opportunity anywhere else other than to buy it from me. So the only place they can buy it is directly for me.
So if you were going to give, a final piece of advice out there to, folks, what would it be?
It would be for the inventors, it would be research. Research guides everything. It'll tell you where to stop, where to start, and it might even tell you not to pursue it. But you have to follow the research. All I did was I did a lot of research, and research is free. You can go on Google, and I have AI to help try to do some research. But research will really help develop an invention, I believe.
Well, that is really good advice because, we do recommend, getting out there, looking around. You've got an idea, get as much research as you can done, and give us a call because we're happy to, point you in right directions and everything. It's been wonderful to have you on with us, and we are looking forward to, eating some of that pizza because, yay, who in America doesn't love pizza? I don't know too many. They even do gluten-free now, right?
Yes, they do.
And so it is absolutely amazing. And you know what? Fast food everywhere is pizza. Pizza, pizza, pizza. So enjoy your pizza out there. Greg, best of luck to you. Thanks so much for being on. And give us the website real quick.
It's www.portionpaddle.com.
Excellent. So if you've got any ideas out there, go and check it out. Maybe you want to order your own, everyone. Be with us next week for another episode of Made in America, because we need it, we make it right here in the US of A. Stay tuned.
Thank you.